Before I start, I just want to say that these are just my favorite movies of the year. They're in no particular order and they're all movies released where I live in 2020. This was a movie I actually forgot about until I went through a list of movies I'd seen last year. And I genuinely don't even understand how I could have forgotten about it. Because this is a powerful and impactful movie that just left me highly impressed. I mean, everything from the cinematography to the performances to the emotional stakes are just spot on. And it's a movie that managed to pull a very unusual and surprising move about halfway through too. And it did it flawlessly, and at the end of the day it just enhanced the experience. So if you haven't seen this one, definitely check it out because it's worth it. This micro-budget movie tells the story of a fisherman in a small village on the coast of England. And everything about it just screams low budget, but it's somehow to its benefit. Because Mark Jenkins managed to turn it into a stylistic choice and part of the charm. So instead of feeling like he was forced to compromise, it feels like he went out of his way to make something unique. And unique this is, because I pretty much guarantee you haven't seen a movie like this in the past year. This is a Polish movie set in a small town and tells the story of a young aspiring priest. Although the story really is as much about the town and the people in it as it is about him. And I just loved the way the movie transported me to this little village. And how it sold me on the village as a character in the story itself too. It's also a remarkably good looking, well written, well acted and all in all well put together movie. One that, despite it being almost a year since I saw it, has stuck with me ever since. This is a unique little Spanish sci-fi movie that took on a pretty interesting concept. One that deals with class issues and politics and whatever else one might imagine all at once. And it does it in a way I've never seen before, but the closest thing I could even compare this to is the movie Cube. It's also very cleverly structured and a movie that figured out how to use very limited resources to its advantage. On top of that, the acting and the writing were really solid as well, so that just kept the whole thing from falling apart. Although I will say I wasn't the biggest fan of the ending, and it is an ending that will split audiences. I love both Imogen Poots and Jesse Eisenberg, so put them together in a movie and the odds are pretty good I'll like it. But this one did a lot more than just that and ended up being a pretty trippy little movie. It basically deals with the existential horror of being stuck in a suburban nightmare. And it does it in a very unique and creative way that made for a more or less unforgettable experience. It's a very psychedelic and darkly comedic take on a subject that I've seen tackled many times before. And it's a movie that goes down a rabbit hole with seemingly no end, and as a result, I love this. As the title might suggest, this one follows the story of an assistant at a production company. And it's one of these day-in-the-life type movies that starts in the morning and ends at night. But the amount of stuff it manages to cram into that single day and less than a 90-minute runtime is kinda astonishing. As is the very minimalist but pithy writing and the absolutely stellar central performance by Julia Garner. This is just a movie that probably isn't going to leave anyone cold. At least it left a lasting impression on me, and yeah, it's easily one of the most memorable and impactful movies of the year. This is a French period piece that has garnered quite a lot of praise. And you know what? It's worth every last bit of it because it's simply phenomenal. It's my favorite movie of the year and I don't think there's even any contest. From the absolutely flawless, and I mean flawless cinematography, to the costumes and the direction, not to mention the ridiculously good performances and the central romance that blew me away. I don't have anything bad to say about this one, it's just that good. This is a very different take on the whole alien invasion / abduction genre. One that features next to no actual aliens and a whole lot of talking. I mean, this one is mostly just incredibly long takes with a crazy amount of dialogue. And yet it never lost my attention, primarily because of the quality of the writing and the actual performances. It's just a very restrained and understated movie that still manages to find a way to impress. It's an outstanding feat of low-budget filmmaking, and what an end to a movie too. Couldn't have done it much better in my opinion, they nailed it with this one. This is a Russian movie, and what an emotionally taxing ride this one was. The story here follows a woman in post-World War II Soviet Union, who works at a hospital and is just trying her best to get by, and to support this young boy as well. But where this story goes is nothing short of, well, bleak and harrowing. Sort of depressing too, but at the same time it does contain some glimmers of hope as well. But I would say that this one is definitely not for the faint of heart, because it can be absolutely brutal at times. However, I guess that is one way to make a movie that I won't forget anytime soon. I went into this expecting nothing much and came away from it very impressed. I mean, the production design is some of the best I've seen all year. But at the same time, the writing was clever and witty and made for a compelling story. And the two main performances carried enough charm to make this, well, more than it would seem on paper, because there really isn't much to this story. But somehow everything just comes together and makes it work way better than I feel it should have. It's an endearing movie about two friends, and the way it brought everything together in the end was just perfect. And those were my top 10 movies of the year. However, I do still have a few honorable mentions I want to bring up, so let's get into it. Jude Law and Carrie Coon just shine in this weird little pseudo-haunted house story. It's really rare to see a movie this uncynical and just simply fun. Just a compelling and quietly realistic look at a working class family going through hardship. I mean, if you like dark comedy and want to see a werewolf movie, this is the one for you. The writing is sharp and the two main performances are nothing short of excellent. Riz Ahmed once again fails to disappoint, this time portraying a drummer facing some life-altering struggles. There are few things funnier than the absurdity of real life sometimes, and this one captures that perfectly. And that's pretty much it for this year's list, so maybe check them out if you didn't already, or maybe don't. After all, I'm not your dad. But hey, what are your thoughts on these? Have you seen them? Did you like them? Let me know. And if you enjoyed the video, maybe give it a thumbs up or sub to the channel, because that would be fantastic.